Sharon knew something was wrong the moment she realized she had been calling for help and no one was coming. Not her husband, not her friends, no one. She lay there, trapped in her own body, pain tearing through her chest, while the house stayed quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that tells you something is ending. Her phone was beside her, untouched, heavy. There was only one person left to call, and she had spent her whole life pretending that person didn't exist. Her breathing grew shallow as a terrifying thought crossed her mind. What if this is how it ends? She didn't think she would die like this. Not in a quiet bedroom with the curtains drawn, not with pain crawling through her body like something alive, not abandoned. She had imagined death differently, maybe dramatic, maybe sudden, but this was slow, humiliating, cruel. Her body felt heavy, like it didn't belong to her anymore. She tried to sit up, but failed. Her body rejected the idea. She closed her eyes and swallowed hard, fighting tears. The doctors had said it clearly. We can't find anything wrong. The tests were normal, yet she was dying. Churches had prayed, anointing oils had been poured, hands had been laid. Nothing changed. Someone had even dragged her to a traditional healer. She remembered the smell of herbs, the strange chants, the fear sitting in her chest as she asked herself how she ended up there. Still nothing. The sickness didn't improve, it only grew bolder. And then people started leaving, friends stopped visiting, calls stopped coming. Her husband, Nelson, became distant, then absent. At first, he said he needed space. Then one night, he didn't come home. That was weeks ago. Sharon turned her face to the side and winced. Tears finally fell. She wasn't crying because of the pain anymore. She was crying because she finally understood something she had avoided all her life. She had nobody. Her phone lay beside her, untouched for hours. She stared at it weakly. There was only one number she hadn't called. One voice she had ignored for years. One person she had pretended didn't matter. Her mother. A poor village woman she had spent her entire adult life hiding from. Sharon laughed bitterly, the sound breaking halfway into a cough. So, this is how it ends, she whispered. She didn't even want help anymore. At that point, she just wanted someone to see her body when she finally died. Someone to close her eyes. With trembling fingers, she picked up her phone and dialed the number she knew by heart but rarely used. It rang once, twice. Sharon? Her mother's voice came through, thin but alert. My daughter. Sharon broke. Mama, she whispered, her voice cracking. It's me. There was a pause on the line, then panic. What's wrong? Why do you sound like this? Sharon swallowed. I'm very sick, she whispered. I don't think I'll survive this. Please, come. I don't want to die alone. There was no panic in her mother's reply, just 4 calm words. I'm coming right now. The call ended. Sharon dropped the phone, covered her face, and cried like a child. That night, as Sharon lay there waiting, half expecting death to finally take her, her mind drifted back to the beginning, to the truth she had buried under pride and class and shame. Sharon had grown up with wealth. She was born in a small village to a woman who loved her fiercely but had nothing to give except that love. When Sharon was barely 5, her mother felt terribly ill. It was a kind of sickness people whispered about, the kind that looked like death was waiting just outside the door. She couldn't walk properly, couldn't work, could barely eat. That was when Madam Kate came into their lives. Madam Kate was not from the village. She was visiting someone when she noticed the sick woman and the little girl always sitting quietly beside her. Something about Sharon, maybe her eyes, maybe her silence, caught her attention. She helped. At first, it was just food, then medicine, then hospital visits. When Sharon's mother grew weaker, Madam Kate made a decision that would change everything. "She will stay with me for now," she said. "Let me help you take care of her." Sharon's mother resisted at first, but what choice did she have? She was dying, or so everyone thought. Sharon moved to the city. She entered a world she didn't know existed. Big houses, clean streets, good schools, new clothes. Madam Kate treated her kindly, like a daughter, paid her school fees, took her to the best schools, exposed her to things a village self could never have imagined. Miraculously, Sharon's mother survived. By the time she recovered, Sharon was already settled. Still, her mother visited when she could. She called, she thanked Madam Kate endlessly. She never stopped being grateful. But Sharon changed. As she grew older, she began to see the gap between two words: the city and the village, wealth and poverty, class and struggle. She began to feel embarrassed. When her mother came around, Sharon felt uncomfortable. She avoided introducing her to friends. She answered her calls with irritation. Visits to the village became rare and short. By the time Sharon entered the university, people assumed she was born rich, and she didn't correct them. She liked it. Then she met Nelson. Nelson came from a respected, wealthy family. He was charming, confident, and well-connected. They fell in love quickly. When marriage came up, Sharon made a decision that sealed her fate. She introduced Madam Kate and her husband as her biological parents. She erased her mother completely. Her wedding was big, elegant, classy. Her biological mother was not invited. Sharon told her, "It's small. Mama, nothing serious. Don't stress yourself." Her mother understood. She always did. She prayed instead. Back in the present, Sharon coughed violently and pulled the blanket tighter around herself, regret pressing heavily on her chest. The next day, a commercial bus stopped at the gates of the big house. A woman stepped down slowly. Her slippers were dusty. Her wrapper was faded. She carried a small nylon bag and a Bible. She didn't look angry. She didn't look ashamed. And with tired steps, she walked towards the gate and knocked. The security man opened the gate and frowned. The woman standing outside looked nothing like the kind of guest who usually visited. Her wrapper was old. Her hair was wrapped in a scarf. "Who are you looking for?" he asked. "My daughter," she replied. Her voice was gentle but firm. He hesitated. This was a rich neighborhood. Visitors came in fancy cars, not commercial buses. "What's her name?" he asked. "Sharon," she said. That name changed everything. The man opened the gate. She walked in slowly, taking in the size of the house. Her heart beat heavily, not from fear, but pain. She knew her daughter never wanted her around. Still, she climbed the stairs with determination. She didn't come to be welcomed. She came to save her child. Inside the house, the living room felt too big. The air smelled of medicine, dust, and loneliness. Curtains were closed. Plates were unwashed in the kitchen. She called softly, "Sharon?" No answer. She called again, louder. "My child." Still nothing. She began opening doors until she reached the bedroom. The light was off. The room smelled of sweat and sickness. And on the bed, under the covers, lay her daughter. Sharon looked small, too small, her skin pale, her eyes half closed. She rushed to her side. "My child," she whispered, but her voice broke. Sharon tried to speak. Her lips trembled. "Mom, you came. I told you I was coming," her mother said, brushing hair from her face. Sharon started crying. Her mother didn't ask questions. She cleaned her, fed her, changed her clothes. She prayed quietly under her breath as she walked. That night, while Sharon drifted in and out of sleep, her mother knelt beside the bed. She prayed like a woman who knew God personally. She fasted. She listened. By the third day, something shifted. Sharon noticed it first. She could breathe better. The pain eased slightly. She could sit up without feeling like she would pass out. Her mother smiled softly but said nothing. She just kept praying. By the seventh day, Sharon was standing, weak but alive. That was when shame finally broke her. She slid off the bed and knelt before her mother, crying uncontrollably. "Mama, forgive me. I was ashamed of you. I abandoned you." Her mother lifted her gently. "You're my child. There's nothing to forgive." The next morning, the door opened again. A man stood there, confused and pale. Nelson. He looked around the room, then at the woman standing beside Sharon. "Who is this?" he asked slowly. "Is she the maid?" Sharon's heart sank. She took a deep breath. "No, Nelson," she said. "This is my mother." His face changed instantly. Nelson stood in the middle of the room like someone who had walked into the wrong house. His eyes kept moving, from Sharon's face to the older woman standing quietly beside her, then back again. He looked confused, unsettled, almost irritated, like his brain was refusing to process what he was seeing. "Who is she?" he asked again, his voice stiff. "You didn't answer me clearly." Sharon swallowed hard. She had rehearsed this moment many times in her head, but now that it was here, the words refused to come easily. "She's not a maid," Sharon said slowly. Nelson frowned. "Then who is she?" Sharon looked at her mother. The woman stood there with a calm dignity Sharon had never noticed before. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't apologizing for her clothes or her presence. She just stood like someone who knew who she was. "She's my mother," Sharon finally said. The room went quiet. Nelson laughed once, sharply. "That's not funny. I'm not joking," Sharon replied. He stopped smiling. What are you saying, Sharon?" "My biological mother," she added. "The one who gave birth to me." Nelson's face changed completely. He stepped back as if the floor had shifted under his feet. "No, that's not possible." Sharon closed her eyes briefly. This was exactly why she had lied for so many years. "You told me your parents were..." He stopped himself. "Madam Kate and her husband. You introduced them to my family, to everyone." "I know," Sharon said quietly. "They raised me, but they didn't give birth to me." Nelson sank into the nearest chair slowly, his mouth slightly open. He looked stunned, betrayed, confused. "So, all this time," he said, his voice low, "you let me believe something that wasn't true?" Sharon nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I did." "Why?" he asked sharply. "Why would you do that?" She didn't answer immediately. Her mother remained silent, allowing her daughter face what she had created. "I was ashamed," Sharon finally said. "I didn't want you to know I came from the village. I didn't want your family to see me as less than you." Nelson stared at her. "You erased your own mother?" he said softly. The words landed like a slap. Sharon broke down completely. I know it was wrong." Her mother inhaled deeply but still said nothing. "I convinced myself it didn't matter," Sharon continued through tears. "I told myself it was just background, that I had moved on, that I deserved better." Nelson shook his head in disbelief. "And you never thought about how she would feel?" Sharon couldn't answer that. She had thought about it. She just chose herself every time. Nelson turned to the woman standing quietly. "Madam," he said awkwardly, I didn't know." Her mother nodded. "I know you didn't." Her calmness unsettled him more than anger would have. "I am sorry," Nelson said after a moment, "for asking if you were a maid." She smiled faintly. "It's not the first time I've been mistaken for less than I am." Something about that sentence cut through Sharon deeply. Nelson exhaled heavily and rubbed his face. "This is a lot," he muttered. Then his expression changed, as if something else had finally surfaced. "And I'm not innocent either," he added quietly. Sharon looked up. I left, he said. I abandoned you. Her chest tightened. When you fell sick, I panicked. Nelson continued. At first, I tried. I went to hospitals. I followed you to churches. I stayed up nights. He paused. But nothing worked. And you gave up? Sharon said softly. Yes, he admitted. I got tired, angry. I started feeling trapped. Her mother's eyes fixed on him calmly. That is when men run, she said. Nelson nodded slowly. I started avoiding the house. I drank a lot. Sharon listened quietly. This was the first time he was speaking without defending himself. One night, he continued, I ran into my ex. Sharon stiffened immediately. She saw me at the bar. She acted surprised, concerned. She asked about you. Nelson swallowed. I talked too much. I was drunk. Sharon's heart began to race. She offered to take me somewhere quiet. He said, somewhere I could rest. I don't remember how I started staying there, Nelson said. But after that night, something changed. How? Sharon asked. I stopped wanting to come home, he replied. Not because I hated you, but because something in me felt blocked. Every time I planned to return, I would lose interest. I felt disconnected from you, from us. I didn't even miss you, he added. That scared me. Her mother stepped closer, and in the last 3 days, Nelson looked up at her. I couldn't sleep. I felt restless, heavy, like something was pushing me back here. He paused. I tried to leave her place. She refused. She told me you were already dead. Sharon gasped. She said it casually. Nelson continued, like it was already settled. Her mother nodded slowly, as if confirming something she already knew. That woman didn't want you alive, she said calmly. Nelson froze. What? She went somewhere, Sharon's mother said, her voice firm now. She didn't fight this marriage with words. Sharon felt cold. She sought power. Her mother continued, dark power. The room felt heavier. She was told your wife would die slowly, that no doctor would find the cause, that she would waste away. Sharon began to tremble. She wanted me dead? Sharon whispered. Yes, her mother replied, so she could have him. Nelson covered his face, his shoulders shaking. God, please forgive me. Sharon looked at him with a mix of pain and disbelief. She hated me that much? Sharon asked. Hatred mixed with jealousy is dangerous, her mother said quietly. Then she turned to Nelson. If you want your wife to leave, she said firmly, you must choose. Nelson nodded immediately. I choose her. Then cut all ties, her mother said. Block her number. Never return to her. Without hesitation, Nelson pulled out his phone and blocked the contact. I'm done, he said, completely. That night, Sharon's mother prayed again, but this time with urgency. She prayed not just for healing, but for protection, and something shifted again. Sharon slept deeply for the first time in weeks, but outside that room, consequences were already forming, and the woman who had tried to destroy her marriage was not done yet. Sandra, Nelson's ex, didn't sleep that night. The space beside her on the bed stayed cold, untouched, accusing her. She kept staring at it, waiting for Nelson to walk back in and say he had just stepped out briefly. But deep down, she already knew. He hadn't stepped out. He had escaped. By morning, reality hit her fully. His clothes were gone. His shoes were gone. Her heart dropped into her stomach. She reached for her phone immediately and dialed his number. The number you're calling is currently unavailable. She frowned and tried again. Unavailable. A strange heat rose in her chest. Not fear yet. Anger. She sent a message. Nelson, stop playing games. Where are you? No response. She waited 5 minutes, then 10, then 30. Nothing. Her fingers trembled as she tried calling again. Still nothing. That was when panic began to creep in. She switched numbers and dialed again. Blocked. Another line. Blocked again. Sandra screamed and threw the phone against the wall. "No," she said, pacing the room. "No, no, no. This is not how this ends." She had done too much, paid too much, waited too long. She remembered the words of the first spiritualist, the hesitation in his voice when he warned her, "Let him go." She laughed bitterly now. After all this, she muttered, "Never." While Sandra was losing her mind, peace was quietly returning to Sharon's home. Each day, Sharon grew stronger. Her steps were firmer. Her appetite returned. Her eyes no longer looked like someone waiting for death. Nelson watched her closely, guilt weighing heavily on him. Sharon's mother noticed everything. She noticed how Sharon now held her hand when they prayed, how she asked her to sit beside her while eating, how she introduced her proudly to neighbors. The shame of the past years was obvious, but so was repentance. One afternoon, Sharon sat beside her mother on the couch. Then her mother said, "My child, I should start preparing to go back to the village." Sharon looked at her calmly. "Why so soon, Mama?" Sharon's eyes filled with tears. "Please, don't go yet." Nelson nodded quickly. "Yes, Mama, we need you here." Her mother studied their faces. "Why?" "Because we owe you," Sharon said honestly, "and I don't want to go back to pretending." Her mother sighed. "Care for me is not payment." "I know, Mama," Sharon replied, "but let me love you properly now." So she stayed, and every night she prayed, deep, watchful prayers. Back in her apartment, Sandra was already preparing for war. She stormed into the house of the first man who had helped her. "You lied to me," she shouted. The man looked up slowly. "I warned you." "I did everything you said," Sandra snapped. "And now, he's gone." The man shook his head. "Then stop." Sandra laughed bitterly. "You think I can stop now?" "You've already gone too far," he warned. "Leave this man and his wife alone." Sandra leaned forward. "If I don't have him, no one will." The man's face hardened. "Then prepare for regret." She stormed out. That day, she visited 3 other places. 2 turned her away. 1 warned her harshly. But obsession doesn't listen to warnings. By nightfall, she found him. A man people whispered about. A man who didn't hesitate. She cried in front of him, twisting the story. "He used me," she sobbed. "Promised me marriage, then dumped me for another woman." The man nodded slowly. "You want justice?" "Yes," she said fiercely. "I can give you justice," he replied. He gave her instructions, items, words, names. "At midnight," he said, "call them by name. If you finish this work, the woman will lose her mind and the man will return." Sandra smiled for the first time in days. Midnight came. The room was dark, silent. Sandra stood barefoot, chanting, calling Sharon's name. Her voice grew louder, wider. At the same moment, Sharon woke up screaming. She jumped off the bed, laughing uncontrollably. Nelson woke in terror. "Sharon!" She ran towards the door. Nelson chased after her, panic gripping his chest. "She's losing her mind." Her mother rushed out immediately. One look at Sharon and she knew. "This is not sickness," she said firmly. "This is attack." She grabbed Sharon tightly and began to pray loud, commanding, fearless. She called on God with authority. After several intense minutes, Sharon collapsed and slept. At that exact moment, Sandra screamed. She began tearing at herself, shouting Nelson's name repeatedly. Neighbors rushed her to the hospital. Doctors sedated her. But when she woke up, she was worse. She screamed non-stop, demanding to see Nelson. They tried calling him, blocked, again blocked. Finally, a doctor sent a message identifying himself, begging Nelson to come over. Nelson stood in the living room with his phone in his hand for a long time before saying anything. The message from the doctor was still on the screen. "Please, this is the attending physician from Mercy Hospital. We need you to come in. The patient keeps calling your name. We can't calm her down. He exhaled slowly and handed the phone to Sharon. Sharon read it once, then again. Her fingers tightened around the device. She's at the hospital, she said quietly. Her mother, who had been seated on the floor with her Bible open, lifted her head. She didn't ask question. She already knew. We will go, she said calmly, but not in fear. Nelson looked at her. Mama, are you sure? She closed her Bible gently. Yes. This whole thing must end properly. They went that weekend. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and quiet panic. Nurses moved quietly, whispering to one another. A doctor met them at the entrance, relief visible on his face. Thank God you came, he said to Nelson. She hasn't slept properly. She keeps screaming your name. As they walked down the corridor, Sharon's heart beat wildly. She felt torn between fear, anger, and something else she couldn't name. The door opened. Sandra was restrained to the bed. Her hair was scattered, her eyes sunken, her body restless even under sedation. She was mumbling under her breath, words tumbling out without direction. Then, she saw them. Her eyes widened. She screamed. Nelson! She cried, struggling violently. Don't leave me, please! Nurses rushed in, trying to calm her, but she was beyond them. The moment her eyes landed on Sharon, her strength left her. She burst into tears. I did it, she shouted, her voice breaking. I did everything. I went there. I called your names. I wanted you dead. The room fell silent. Sharon froze. Nelson felt his nails weaken. Sandra sobbed uncontrollably. Forgive me, please. Forgive me. I didn't know it would come back to me like this. Her mother stepped forward, slowly, steadily. She stood beside the bed and placed a hand gently on Sandra's forehead. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She prayed. Her voice was low but firm, filled with authority that came from years of kneeling in sacred places. She asked for mercy. She broke every word spoken in anger. She released Sandra from the grip of her own obsession. As she prayed, Sandra's body slowly relaxed. Her breathing steadied. Tears continued to fall, but wideness faded. The room felt lighter. When Sharon opened her eyes again, Sandra had fallen asleep. The doctor stared in disbelief. No one said anything. They turned and left. The drive home was quiet. Sharon finally broke the silence. Mama, thank you. Her voice shook. Her mom held her hand. The moment they entered the house, she pulled her mother into a tight embrace. Her body trembled as tears flowed freely. I finally understand, she whispered. Blood is blood. And I was wrong. Her mother stroked her hair gently. Understanding always comes, even if it comes late. Sharon pulled back and looked at her. Thank you for not giving up on me. Her mother smiled softly. A mother's prayer doesn't expire. Sharon nodded through tears. And prayer, her mother added quietly, never fails. I hope you enjoyed the story. Give it a like and share it with your friends and your loved ones. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.